Like, but how do you evaluate your season in reflection? And then how do you use that for the next year?
We definitely usually take some time and then we come and have these exit interviews because as a coach, you want to learn what can we do better? What can we do differently? What happened in that last game? You know, moving forward. If it's a senior, then you're trying to help them decide where, if they haven't already committed, what kind of schools they want to go to. Let's get the film together. Let's put you in the right situation. Let's try to see if we can find you a school to play at. If they're a returner, then it's like, okay, we take a couple weeks off and then we got to get right back to it because obviously we didn't finish where we wanted to finish and we have to get better. Like you have to evaluate. I mean, even as a coach, I feel like there's a ton of things we could have done differently and it's just frustrating, right? But you have to own that, honor that, and now you have to try to get better. Like what could we have done differently, to not finish that last game, right? So, and that always takes time. I mean, I think this year was a little different for me. We wanted to get to that finish line and try to figure it out. And we knew only one team was going to do that. So, but you put so much into it, like we do
Yeah,
every year. But this year was unique. You don't plan on
yeah,
going undefeated. You don't talk about it. You don't coach that way. You don't go into a tournament saying, "Oh, we got to win." You just don't. Like you coach and you try to get better every day. You're literally trying to improve every day. So when we got to that point where it was later in the season and we were still hadn't taken a loss, you know, you feel some type of way about it, but you try not to even talk about it or get into it because, you know, us athletes usually are superstitious in some shape or form, or you just want to, focus on the task at hand and keep it literally one day at a time. And
hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to Lanes of Mastery. We have a super special guest today, a really good friend of mine, probably like my favorite person, in the Bay. Um, Super cool dude. And this is Lanes of Mastery, as you know, where we talk to people who are in their lane and they've mastered it. They have an ability um, to do what they do in a way that's exceptional. And it caught my attention. And this person here, Mr. Bryan Gardere, is one of those dudes. So I want to introduce him to you guys, and I'll let him say a little something about himself. We'll get some questions going, and we'll go from there. So without further ado, Bryan Gardere, welcome, sir.
hey, thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Yes, Bryan Gardere, Piedmont High School. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Just when you called and reached out, I said, yeah, I'll definitely do it. Definitely try to, express whatever I have learned and try to share with you. And obviously I feel the same way about you. Like that's why I always ask you to come to the gym and help out.
Yeah, yeah. Man, well, this show, like I said, is about people, man, who just caught my eye. I love to learn. And it doesn't matter if you do what I do, you can be a plumber, electrician, a doctor. I just love to see people who are good at something. And you are definitely one of those dudes. And in the back, and we know each other through basketball and through another guy named George, a mutual friend of ours and stuff like that. And so, I wanted to bring you on to just kind of pick your brain, man, and to see, how you do what you do and all that good stuff. So let's kind of start off at the beginning, man. So I know you played a little basketball yourself. Well, a lot of basketball. I know you
I
played some
did.
basketball yourself, right? So tell me a little bit about your own personal basketball journey and kind of how you got started.
So I actually went to Piedmont High School where I'm coaching now, where I'm currently coaching. Um, Played varsity and then went to junior college. Um, and I went to Snow College in Ephraim, Utah. And then I graduated from Kansas Wesleyan, which is a Division II school in the Midwest. And then after that, I played just a couple years in Europe, and then I started coaching. I played 2 years, and then I just started coaching. And it's interesting because before, or I think if you would have asked me while I was playing, I would have told you I would have tried to play for 10, 15 years if I could. But they do say the best substitute for not playing is coaching. So when that happened, I got to stay in the game, but just in a different capacity. So um, as much as I love playing and I still enjoy playing, um, I started coaching, and I felt that it was something that I would enjoy.
Mhm. So I know you also train too, right?
I do.
So I know you
I do
also, so
train.
tell me a little bit, how long have you been doing that? How is that for you?
I started training shortly after um, was playing. So like I was still staying active and playing, and then there was some kids that so I went back to the high school, and then I started working out because I want to stay in shape. And then some of the best players on the boys side were like, "Hey, can I shoot with you?" And then all of a sudden it became I was doing the drills, and then they were kind of mimicking it or whatever, and then I was more of a player trainer, and then obviously when I stopped playing and just was coaching, it turned into um, being, I would say being one of the trainers in the area. And then a guy that I kind of really got to start working with was Phil Handy. And Phil
Okay.
Handy is now a current coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. So I started helping him, and then he took he took an NBA job and kind of took off that way, and I continued to train and coach, and been trying to give back ever since.
Wow. So you coach professionals, WNBA, you coach up and down, right?
I've
Train.
helped with the NBA and trained, and some WNBA, and obviously college and high school and overseas, and even some younger kids as well. I don't do a lot of younger players, but I do a lot of camps, so therefore I'm still doing it in some shape or form.
Yeah.
Um, with the camp business. But yeah, so in the gym with a variety of age groups and just trying to, share the knowledge. I feel like that's and it was shared with me, and I felt like, you and I both we talk about paying it forward all the time, just
Mhm.
making sure you're giving back the best way we can,
Mhm.
and that's being in the gym, that's helping these young players out, and it's not just basketball stuff too. It's sometimes it could be some off court stuff that they're kind of going through, and just being older than them and trying to share our experiences with them,
Mhm.
can lead to, friendships and keeping up with guys or gals that are continuing to play. And yeah, so it's been really good for me.
Mhm. Mhm. Now I know, I just saw that article about you being one of the top 100 most influential coaches in the girls' side of the game. So you're up there with like Don Staley and the coach for Arizona and Boo Williams, and I mean you're in the who's who, the Mount Rushmore of the girls' side. Um, how did you when you started? What was your vision? What were your expectations? What did you think this was going to be?
Honestly, I didn't think it was gonna be. I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I definitely wasn't like I just didn't know, right? But um, I knew when I was gonna if I was gonna commit to it and make it something that I was gonna continue to do, I wanted to do it 100%. So from the point that happened, I started going to the Final Fours on the women's side. I've been to a couple WNBA drafts. I just wanted to make sure I don't want to say all in, but basically just understood how the game worked from the highest level, kind of all the way down. And,
Mhm.
um, and just trying to make sure you learn about all of it, the club sports, the playing opportunities after school, learning obviously building relationships with the college coaches and just kind of all that stuff. So just because if you're going to do it, let's do it the right way, and make
Mhm.
sure that you can impact the game in some shape or form. If when they play for you, when they're done playing for you, I think it's just equally as important to have all that, um, so you can help the kids or young people in any way you can.
Mhm. And it's really interesting because, being boys and playing basketball, historically there really hasn't, it's more men in it now than when we grew up, right? Coaching girls and things like that, especially like there was no WNBA when we were really growing up, stuff like that. So, were you ever interested in coaching boys, or did you coach boys and then went to girls? How did that come about?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I helped on the boys' side a little bit, like with some club stuff, right when I was um, still playing, or summer times being home. Um, and then on the girls' side, it really happened when, I mean, my whole story is kind of, I came back home to in between seasons in Europe and South America. So I would go back to Piedmont, where that's where I went to school. So I would get in the gym and work out. And the coach was on the girls' side. I guess they went in a different direction. So they needed a coach. And, the principal, Pam Bradford, was still the principal when I went to Piedmont High School. And then she basically said, "Hey, are you interested in coaching?" And for a couple of weeks, I kind of, or not a couple, maybe like 1 week, I kind of tried to fight it off a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I reached out to one of my mentors, Clifford Ray, who played for the Golden State Warriors back in the day with Rick Barry, and he was coaching with the Warriors, and he helped me play in some um, CBA and some G League and USBL and some of the semi-pro stuff because he knew a lot of people. And it's just funny because we laugh about it to this day. I called him crying about still wanting to hoop, and he was like, "Man, take the coaching job. It's okay. Just you'll be around the game and it's fun. You'll be able to give back." And so, long story short, I took the Piedmont job thinking it was 4 month, 4 or 5 month high school season is 4 or 5 months. 4 or 5 months turned into 20 years. So uh, it was kind of crazy, but yeah, I mean it's been fun,
20 years.
crazy.
Man. So you started off on this journey. So, and like I said, being a boys basketball player and being, growing up on the boys side, playing and being
Yes.
coached, now you're coaching, the girls side. What, if there are any, what are the differences? How did you find, because we'll talk more about your success as we go, but how did you find how to communicate, or what are the differences, or are there any differences? How did you figure out how to do that?
I feel like it's been an ongoing learning process, right? I think we always try to evolve as trainers, as coaches, as people, right? We're always trying to learn and get better. I think the training part kind of helped because I think in the beginning, my first couple years, I was very new to coaching. Like I said, I'd done some coaching in club ball, and it was very little. And in Europe, or in South America, I was actually, I don't want to say I was a player coach, but I had helped run some practices and do some things. So I basically took what I learned in college from my college coach and started
Right.
doing it with my first team, right? That was pretty standard.
Yeah.
We run all the secondary
College.
breaks
Yeah.
and do all the
Yeah.
stuff, and we
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
do what we were taught. And then
Yeah.
each year you would kind of evolve and try to, not even evolve, you would just learn, and you would see what other teams are doing, other coaches. You would start asking more questions, and then you start picking brains of your friends and your people that you trust, and then you start forming your own um, kind of not just what you learned in college, but now you start figuring out some of the things that you like to do.
Hmm.
I When I first came in, I really was I was blessed. I mean, my first year at Piedmont, Courtney and Ashley Paris moved into town. They were already there before I got there, but so the team that I like was taking on, or that I was going to coach, had two of the best players in the country. You know, so it was really unique situation. And obviously the point guard was Annie Krangle, and and she went on to play at Wisconsin, and we had, and Logan Rawlings went to Virginia, so we ended up having a solid group. Um, but it was and for me, one of the things that came about when people asked me did I want the job or when I took the job was that they were going to have some help that was going to come in and help us coach. Right, his name was Dick Kuchin. He coached at Notre Dame. He coached at Princeton, and he coached at Cal. So for me, my first year is coaching. I get a 35-year experienced D1 head coach.
Yeah.
He's helping me coach in my first 4, 5, 6 years. Like,
Wow. Okay.
so I got to learn on the job, but I was also, no ego, didn't care that, it was my team or his team, whatever. And I would let him talk at timeouts if we needed to, or if he had something he wanted to explain. He scripted the first 15 plays of the game. And if those who don't know, Courtney Parrish was a 6'4" strong center that was, that was almost unguardable. And so was Ashley. She was 6'3" probably, and she can go inside or outside. So, there would be a timeout and he would say, Bryan, Courtney's only touched the ball 4 times in the first 15 plays. Like, we need to change that. So there'd be little things like that, because he was like, you always have to play to your strengths, and when to use timeouts, when not to. If some team throwed a funky zone on us and we hadn't practiced, he would know what to do, because 35 years of coaching, there isn't anything he had not seen yet. So for
Mhm.
me, I'm trying to soak it all in. And obviously I'm there every day and I'm coaching, but you know, Dick Kuchin he was the man. Like, he was able to, like, really break things down for me. We would meet for coffee. We would talk, I mean, practice plans, and he literally would go, like, he kept it really simple. What are the 5 phases of the game? Like rebounding, shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, like, and then how do you want to tackle that? And then press breaks and things, because you had a game in high school. In college, you get, like, I think it's 42 days for your first game or something.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
and in high school, you get 12, 8. I don't
Wow.
know. Yeah, you start on November 1, or let's say it's 1. You probably have a few days of tryouts. Then you start practicing. And then by that second weekend, you're supposed to be scrimmaging. And then there's another scrimmage. And then it's Thanksgiving. And then after that, you're supposed to start playing. So, if you're playing in a scrimmage in a jamboree style, and you get 3 teams and 2 of them are pressing and one's doing zone, and you've had 8 days of practice, you may not have covered a whole lot in 8 days. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because you're still
Yeah.
working on closeouts, and you're working on, exactly what you're trying to do. So it was very interesting for me, but very educational. And Dick Kuchin actually came to some games this year, and it was
Oh,
really nice
wow.
to see him. Yeah, he came to, I think he was at senior night, and he came to another game, and he was just love staying in contact with him. But for me, I
Yeah.
was blessed. My first couple of years, man, I feel like I got some of the best tutelage that anyone could ever have, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it helped jumpstart kind of me coaching and understanding things, and start seeing things from a whole nother perspective that maybe other high school coaches didn't get to experience. And then we can take it to even another level, because as much as you love the game, I was already doing that anyway. Like, I love the game, so I'm always trying to learn and get better. But then when I had it right in front of me and next to me, and never worried about when to use a timeout, when not, just, and then sometimes you go with your gut, and maybe you don't, or but we were always going to be in a good spot. So that was a lot of fun.
Cool. So how have you figured out, is the girls' game different than the men's game? And what ways are they different? And is coaching girls different than coaching boys?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the game is definitely different. The boys' game is, I mean, we try to play fast and play with a lot of pace, and you hear that on TV a lot, because we watch a lot of, the Warriors around here in the Bay Area. But we try to play with pace, but the boys' side is just so fast and so athletic, and they play above the rim. I think those are kind of I think above the rim is probably the biggest, I would say, one of the biggest differences. But the girls' game is getting more skillful. Kids, like, when I train, I don't teach a step back different from a boy to a girl. You're going to teach it the
Mhm.
same way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Boys might be able to get a little bit further, get more separation, or jump higher on their elevation, but you can still teach it the same way. Boys may be able
Mhm.
to do it a little different, add to it, or add their own flair to it too. But
Mhm.
um, I think the difference, people always say girls listen, boys don't listen, per se. I don't want to say that boys don't listen, but the girls definitely are trying to hear what you have to say. And I've learned over my time that most teams, or a lot of teams, they want to be on the girls' side, want to run a certain kind of offense, or tell them what play to run, or what do you think, as opposed to on the boys' side, you probably have to slow them down and say, look, man, run a play. Where on the girls' side, they're looking at you like, hey, man, what do you want to run? What's the next play? What are we going to do? Boys'
Yeah.
side, they don't want that. You probably have to slow them down a little bit and say, look, this time you're going to run, you're going to execute something where they can
Mhm.
just drive and go one-on-one and do some of the things. And on the girls' side, you'll get that, but I think it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
Um, I think those are some of the main things. I think you can coach them up the same way. Like I've coached boys and I coach pretty fiery on the girls' side. So I feel like, you can, I don't want to say there's no difference, but I think you can coach girls up. I really do. I feel like you can get on them, you can jam them up, you can challenge them. And if you spend a lot of time with your team and they
Mhm.
understand that it's coming from a place of love and it's coming from a
Mhm.
place of where you want them to get better, then they don't really take it personal. And they
Mhm.
don't take it like, you know, coach is crazy or coach is mad at me. It's more like, hey, he's just challenging us to be better,
Mhm.
and that's kind of the thing. And on the boys' side, you can definitely do that. Boys let a lot of stuff roll down their back. They
Mhm.
can darn near get into a fight and then go eat after, or get a ride home from somebody that you just got into it with.
Yeah.
Girls' side, that's probably not happening. Girls' side, if they get into an argument, they're probably not going to talk for a couple days. They'll
Yeah.
fake it a little bit, but there'll be some, you know, they'll take them a little while. They'll hold their grudge a little bit longer. But overall, I think you can definitely, um, I think you can just challenge them in on both sides. And I think, they're open to it, especially when they know you're committed to them and they know that there's love in that program and in the locker room. You can you can get a lot done.
Mhm. How have you seen the girls' game grow since you started?
I think it's evolved with the whole the I would say the positionless game, or the way people um, view the game now. Like everyone's getting more skillful, right? Like everyone's supposed to be able to shoot the trail three, and everyone's supposed to be able
Mhm.
to dribble the ball, and all the handles and all the finishes and stuff. So I think it's evolved in that manner. Like we used to have guards and posts at practice, now it's like
Mhm.
everyone's on the wing, everyone has a ball. You can do some post stuff, but it's just that's not how the game is played right now. So
Mhm.
I think the 5 out, or having 5 out, or 4 out and one in, or um, I think the ball handling, I think the pace of the game overall is probably um, is grown and getting faster. I would say athleticism. I would say the girls are probably watching more. I would say online, like social media kind of stuff, and trying to steal moves and mimic moves like the boys have been doing for a long time. But the
Mhm.
difference with the boys is they would be at the park playing, or they would be at a gym doing it, and girls may or may not be at the park, but they could still, now they're watching people online and they can go try it on their own or do whatever they have to do. But
Mhm.
I would say the skill sets probably, and not saying they weren't skillful before, because we've had some. I think the talent has kind of gone up and down in the Bay Area. Because when I first started, we had Courtney and Ashley that were McDonald's All Americans, but Oakland Tech had Devonay Hampton and Alexis Gray Lawson. They were also McDonald's All Americans, and we're
Mhm.
2 miles apart, or 1 mile apart from each other.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
the talent level was, and then Crondelet had an All American, and then Danielle Robinson at Midi was an All American and a WNBA player. So I would say I don't want to say back in the day, but we probably had 6 or 7 WNBA players, which we don't have right now in the Bay Area, but we had that, you know,
Right. Right.
some years back, right? So I don't want to say it's necessarily better or not better or whatever, the talent wise, but the difference of the game is probably the way the girls game has evolved is just probably the skill sets and the amount of trainers too. I don't know, good or bad, everybody's getting better or trying to get better, and working on that. So that's probably helped push the game along a little bit.
Mhm.
People watching these, Steph Curry and Dame Lillard shoot these deep threes. Now you look at the Caitlin Clark girl from Iowa; she's shooting from the logo on the regular
Mhm.
and averaging a triple double, and it's not even a bad shot because she makes it so consistently. So you can't even call it a ill-advised shot. It's
Mhm.
going in 47% of the time. She's, and she's shooting from the logo, which is almost near half court. Like, it's pretty incredible. So the game is definitely evolving, and I think it's trending in the right direction. And I think whether we had cameras before or not, girls are dunking the ball like now you can look on social media and there's a bunch of kids now dunking the ball where before you may have heard about it, but you didn't necessarily see it. Now we
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
see it,
yeah.
so it's definitely coming. It's getting better.
Man, that's when we had Storm out here a couple of years ago, Jasmine and all them, and we went to Chicago. That's who George and them lost to, was Caitlin Clark and them.
Oh yeah,
That's who we lost
and
to at the buzzer.
she's in the Final Four right now for good reason, man. She is a
Yes.
very, very good basketball player.
Yeah, that's who they lost to, man. That's who they lost to. Um, so one of the things that I recognized and realized about you and your program that I thought was very um, unique is that you seem to have built a year-round program. And I haven't really seen, I started with girls as well from George and in my mid 20s. And so now, training for 20 years or so, um, one of the things I noticed about you when I first, met you and came to your practices and games and stuff like that, but then seeing your year-round program, the year-round commitment that you have for girls basketball and high school, and you have, I mean, the girls are there in the spring, they're there in the summer, they're there. You have so many, all of your alumni come back and play with the girls in the spring and in the early fall and things like that. And it seems that you really built a culture of basketball that to me is pretty unique, especially on the women's side, to me that I've seen. How did was that something you felt like you wanted to do, needed to do? Was it an unintended consequence? How have you done that?
I think, I mean, I'm sure, people, the good teams or good programs would hear this or listen to this and say, most of the good teams are probably trying to go year round. It's just a
Mhm,
matter of how they're doing it.
mhm,
I feel like I don't think it was necessarily, I think in the beginning it was, oh, season's over, let's start, we got to get better, let's work out. And
mhm,
then the summer comes and it's spring and summer is about club ball, but you
mhm,
also still have to have a pulse on your team and still have to open it up because they're not gone all the time. They're gone a good amount, but you still have to have that. And then there's kids that don't play year round where you definitely want to make sure you have something for them. Um, and we try to make it a little different because we try to make it more skills in the spring and the summer instead of
mhm,
all the team stuff. I know
mhm,
when the summer comes, you're allowed to like have practices and things, but we don't necessarily believe in that. Not that we don't want to practice, but we want to build those skills up and we want to make it a fun place to be. So we do have the music on. We do have the alumni. We have people in and out. We have the semi pros and the European players that are home. And it makes it for a fun open gym.
mhm,
Now, but it's not just open gym because we're obviously going to dribble, we're going to shoot, we're going to work on finishing, and we're going to
mhm,
mix it up. So it's not, I don't even want to say boring. So it's not boring, but it's just different. We
mhm,
want to, one day we're doing finishes, one day we're doing something off the dribble, and next day we're a lot of doing the catch and shoot, and then we'll just keep mixing up. Or maybe one day we'll pull the cones out and do dribbling. And you've been there and you've seen it and you've kind of instructed and ran a lot of it. You know what I
mhm,
mean?
mhm,
And
mhm,
that's the other thing is I think you have to have people that you trust, like yourself, like Kenny, and some of the other coaches, Amila, Nana, all of them. I trust them. I know them. There's a lot of love there. So we know that if they want to say something or chime in or do a different workout, we want them to do that and to be there. And I think the kids like it too, because you can't hear my voice year round. You just can't. You know what I mean? I don't think any head coach, I don't know how healthy it is just in general, because
yeah,
at some point they're going to tune you out and you want that voice to carry some weight come March Madness, come this time of the year, or whatever. You want it to, if they hear it year round, then it's, it
mhm,
may not be as effective.
mhm,
So I like to have it mixed up. I don't want to be um, coming down hard. Obviously, we want to get work and get better and really work on weaknesses. I think that's the other thing we try to do is really try to hone in on someone's skill set that is not a strong part of their game
mhm,
and to just add to it. You know,
mhm.
when you start playing real games or scrimmages or open gyms, you're going to play to your strengths anyway. So during some of these, during our workout sessions, we're trying to focus on some of the things that you don't necessarily do very well,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully you'll gradually start doing it when you play 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or whatever it is. And then maybe you'll try it in an AAU game, and then maybe the next year you'll try it in a game with us, or
Mm-hmm.
at your university or wherever you're going. So um, I think working on the strengths, the skill sets, creating a I don't know if fun's the right word, but creating an environment where it doesn't feel like it's a chore or doesn't feel like it's, oh, I got to go to the gym today, or, you know, and it is
Mm-hmm.
spring or summer. So sometimes they want to go out and go do something else. They got friends, they have a life too, right? So you have to find that balance. And I think you need to balance with everything. So we definitely, you know, are trying. We're definitely trying to build that culture, and we try to do little things like make sure everyone gets introduced, and we do the whole circle thing, and just pretty standard stuff though. But um, I think it works, and it's been working, and we're always trying to grow.
Well, and I would say, that's one of the reasons I have you on here is honestly, I don't think it's that standard. And I say that because when I watch you guys play, it's one thing to have plays and be a good team, but like one of the unique things about your girls, especially this year, was that they could actually play. Like actually
Yeah,
playground, they could actually hoop.
yeah,
They could actually throw a one hand bounce pass, a one hand pitch ahead. Like they could actually play basketball, not a play, not a cut, not a screen. They could actually play basketball. And I attribute that so much to the work that you have in the program year round. And
yeah,
and so watching teams that I'm like, there's no way Brian and them are gonna win because they have 14 girls and you have like nine. They have four coaches and it's just you out there. They have taller girls. They have all these different advantages that normally naturally should lead to a different outcome. And yet you're beating these teams by 15. The teams I think you should almost lose to or should be competitive, you're beating by 15, 17. The ones that shouldn't even be there, you're beating by 9,500, right? But I think the fact that you have a year-round program and another part of that culture is you also incorporate the boys. And so
yes,
I've been in very few gyms where the boys want to come and play with the girls. They want to work out with the girls, do the same drills, how the boys are so supportive of the girls. And they support each other, but usually the boys always kind of have this air of like, yeah, but yeah, right? But where you are, you have built an environment and a culture where the boys that are playing, the boys that are coming back from college, overseas, whatever, they are so ingratiated. It's like one team, one program. And I think that to me, from my experiences, I'm from Los Angeles. I've been around a lot of gyms. I've been at Windward with Steve over there, Steve Smith, and the girls down there are some animals.
yeah,
But the boys don't really fool with them as much like that. It's not a blend. It's like you're good and you're good over there. And
right.
you have brought the kids together and the boys together and the girls together, and they slap each other five, they cheer each other on, they compete, they support. In the season when you took them to go see JoJo and stuff like that, like that's what I mean. Is like, I think you're giving too many people a little too much credit. I mean, yeah, that's
Maybe.
your political side, and you're a coach, so do what you got to do, right? But how have you managed to do that?
I think part of it is the training. So I train a lot on the boys' side, but I coach on the girls' side, right?
Mm,
So then I think when the boys see the training and then they say, "Oh, he's going to go coach the girls now," they just want to be a part of it, right? And then
mm,
doing the drills, or they see the girls how skillful they are, like Natalia, for example, who
mm.
shoots the ball pretty well, or Trinity, or whoever, right? They start seeing that, wow, the girls. And I think boys are always at one point are like they think they're too good, and then they get in the gym with them, and the girls make more shots than them, and then all of a sudden it's like, hold on, maybe I can learn and be here and still get
Yeah.
better. But we have tried to create it where anywhere I go, I try to be welcoming to everyone as long as they want to work hard, right? So then it
Mm.
kind of separates the whole. Well, the girls are shooting over here. I try to. You saw JoJo at all the workouts,
Yes.
right? And he's an
Yeah.
elite basketball player. Kyrie
Yeah.
Brown, same thing. He's elite. So, but they were open arms to they just want to be in the gym and get better. And I think that's kind of where I don't want to say separate ourselves, but we do open our gym up, but we want everyone who comes in, they got to be willing to work and want to get after it, and try to help each other get better and maybe share some information. I think Kyrie does a great job of giving some of the kids some uh, like little nuggets or little advice or especially for JoJo. I think because he's a couple years older, not much, but a couple like 2 or 3, but he's already been through it a little bit, right? He's already played his freshman year of college, so he was really trying to help him grow as a player and understanding game speed and things like that. I think when you're in high school, you don't truly get it.
No, you don't.
Until you don't get it. You just don't understand game speed, and then you get to the next level. You're like, oh, that body language that he was crying about. Like we talk about body language every single day, and understanding the motor and what it takes to be at that next level. And then I think once you get it, so when we see JoJo this summer, he's gonna get it, and he's gonna get it. He's gonna understand. He's gonna work even harder. And he thought he was working hard before, but he didn't realize there was another layer. There's more layers to peel back. So we try to welcome everyone. We try to make it, like you said, a place where people can get better. And I think, I mean, maybe I am being a little PC with it, but we created something, and we know that it's a place where if you put the time in, you're going to see results. And it's pretty steady. It's a direct correlation to how you play. The more you put in, the more you get out. It's one of the oldest things in the world. One of those things we've always heard. The more you put in, the more you get out. But it's a direct correlation to how you shoot the ball, how you handle it. And I've eyewitnessed it with the kids that you work with. The more that they put in, they get results when it's time to play. So we feel like that is kind of our thing, is like just keep putting the time in. It might be, I don't want to say boring, but it may be we're shooting spots again. But eventually you're going to see why you do those spots, and you're going to see how it comes, And then I think with the way we play is we try not to do some of those standard drills that we did growing up, like the 3-man weave, right? We don't warm up. You would never do a 3-man weave in the game. We don't even include that. We'll do the drive, the kick, the extra, the one more. That's how we warm up. And then we'll stretch, and then we dribble, and then so we don't even do like the 3-man weaves or I don't know. There's a couple other drills that some people do that you just will never do in a game. We just try to stay away from those so we can maximize our time, because time is precious, right? You want to get as many reps and as many things as you can. So even the warm up, we like to do a little different, but it's been working. Hopefully we can continue to learn and add to it, and hopefully JoJo will come back and give us a couple more drills. And, we just always want to try to grow. We don't care where it comes from. I watch a lot of film. I ask a lot of questions. I go to a lot of workouts. I'll, talk to my, higher level guys, NBA guys, and always picking people's brains just to try to make it better or different, so we'll continue to do that because I think it's important.
And another thing I noticed was that you have so many college coaches in the gym, just sitting up in there like their parents. And they just sit there and they're so comfortable, and they're sitting at the table just talking. I mean, rival coaches sitting there talking to each other and sitting at different spots in the gym. And you have so many, it seems like the environment also, not only in the games, but in the off season, whenever it's NCAA appropriate, the college coaches come, and they come to talk to you. They come to talk to the kids. They come to sit there in the gym. And so you're providing such motivation and inspiration for a kid who's tired and doesn't really want to do anymore, but to look over and see that college coach there, that assistant coach there with their gear on and stuff like that. And so, that's another thing that I've noticed that you have. So how do you talk to the girls or prepare them for possible playing opportunities past high school? What do you talk to them about or try to impress upon them for however long you have them, a year? People transfer, come in early, stay late, whatever. But what is it? You have those coaches there, so obviously you understand, and they understand that you're doing something that they want to be a part of and hopefully get girls from. What do you think to the girls about college, and how do you try to prepare them for that next step? Because like you said, no matter whether it's boys or girls, you think but you just don't know. And there's no way you can. So you don't know you don't, right? Yeah. So how do you try to prepare them for that next step?
I think it really comes from um, one, obviously, if you played in college like I did, and then the help that we have that played in college, right? All the coaches, Amila,
Mhm.
Nana, Kenny, yourself,
Mhm.
um, and anyone who's played, we try to share those like things that we've already done it, so we're going to share like the body language. I think that's one of the biggest things. Is
You.
like it's huge. I didn't know. I wish I would have known, but I didn't know.
Mhm.
Point the ball, you man. Always being on the help, always on your toes, working. So we try to help them.
No, I can't hear you. Uh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. My phone rang. Somebody, Eva was
Ah,
coming.
okay, okay, okay.
um, So I think it's trying to share with the kids as much knowledge as possible um, about what it takes to get to that next level, and obviously having people that played it, the girls that former players that come back to help out because they've already been through it. They played for me. They've gone to college. They've been starting. They've not started. They come back and they share all that knowledge with the girls, and I think it's really important because at the end of the day, like you said, we don't you don't know what you don't know, but we're trying to give you the answers to the test, and sometimes you can't understand that until you actually go through it yourself. But we
Mhm.
try to share with them. We try to make it our small version of a college workout or practice with the practice, obviously with the practice uniforms and the clock on and the quick water breaks and the running or jogging from one spot to the next. Just trying to give them a small dose of what it's going to be like because obviously we can't simulate a real college practice, but
Mhm.
we try to give it to as much as we can in the high school version, but still demand and try to create something where we're really trying to help them because at the end of the day, those things are important. You know,
Mhm.
we had
Yeah.
it was one kid a couple years ago. They would go get water. They were the last ones to come back every time. Got to college, the college coach mentioned something to me and said, Brian, every time I go get water, they're the last ones. And I just started laughing. I thought, they still haven't figured it out, huh? The last one's coming back from the water break. But no, just the little things. And we try to explain to them that everything matters. Like
Mhm.
the way you sit in the classroom. Do you sit in the front? Do you slouch? Are you acting like you don't care? You're sleepy. The way you
Mhm.
shake your hands, the way you introduce yourself to people. Do you say your full name? Do you look them in their eye? Like everything matters. So we're just trying to teach and share that with them and try to do as many life lessons as possible pertaining to, of course, we're just doing basketball, but it's really bigger than that. It
Mhm.
really is. And that's why you've been in the locker room where we've taught where everybody reads a quote and why they chose it. And you just start getting different perspectives. And I think not even the quote, but the why and hearing each kid say why they chose it is really
Mhm.
kind of cool because you get to see where they're coming from whatever level they're at. Some of them are
Mhm.
really on the surface, and you're like, okay. And some are
Mhm.
like, they peel back 2 or 3 layers, and you're like, oh wow, they're locked in today. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
Okay.
they're really serious and they're really focused, or whatever the word
Mhm.
was, or whatever. And so yeah, I feel like we're uh, just trying to give them as much as we can without making it because not everyone on your team wants to play in college either, right? So it's such a
Mhm. Mhm.
fine line between running a program that is basically built for those who want to move on. But then you have some kids that don't want to move on, just want to play high school basketball and have a good time and
Mhm.
be on a team and have fun and
Mhm. Mhm.
be a part of something. But they don't
Mhm.
necessarily want to play in college. They don't care
Mhm.
about the body language, right? But you still have to have the
Mhm.
buy-in and all that fun stuff to make it happen. But and then for the most part, I think we do get that.
Mhm. Travel ball is bigger now, man, than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's just blown up right now. I mean, it's full speed now for the boys and the girls,
Yes.
right? So, what do you think about it? Do you, when your girls ask you about it, do you promote it? Do you not promote it? Do you care? Do you not care? Do you think there's value, or do you tell them, like, do you tell them what is valuable? Like, how do you approach that with your girls when they ask you for advice about that?
It's kind of gone in waves a little bit. Like I feel like when I first started coaching, it was like it was Courtney and Ashley and a couple others, and they were playing on these top teams. Jerry Gatewood down there in LA and leave and come back,
Yeah.
or they played for Mark Anger first, and then they went there their senior year. And my thing at that time was like, man, gather as much information you can and bring it back to the team. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's learn from a different coach, try to maybe gain something knowledge, some insight, do some homework on different players that we might see down the line. Like, really, like, have fun with it, but then bring that information back to our team. Then I thought it went through a phase where there started to be a lot of teams, and then there was a lot of coaches. Well, some of those coaches weren't necessarily very good, or not as, they were just doing whatever. So then I felt like there was a phase where the kids would go off to do their AU, they would come back, and some of those habits just weren't the same,
Yeah.
right? And then you would kind of struggle as a coach. You don't want to talk mess because club ball is important. It has its value, just like high school has its value.
Mhm.
So then it was kind of like, well, the bad habits will frustrate you, right? And
Mhm.
then they'll be like, "What, you don't triple threat anymore? You're too cool for that?" Whatever it was. And then you kind of went through that phase a little bit. And then I think it's come another round where EYBL started getting a little bigger. You started getting some, I don't know if you consider them better coaches or just more serious. So then you started getting those different levels of the circuit. And then you
Mhm.
started seeing the change a little bit again.
Mhm.
So I can't say I promote it. I don't want to say I don't promote it. When the kids ask me, I think it's important that they find a system that'll fit them,
Mhm.
because a lot of these teams now are systems, right? I mean, if you go to this team, you're playing, you're going to run this system. You run the dribble drive. If you go to this team, you're going to 2-2-1 press into a 2-3 zone the whole time. Like, and
Mhm.
they don't deviate from these systems, right? So, and some teams do the 5 in and 5 out, and some teams play only 6 people, but they have 14 on the team, and you're
Mhm.
all paying, or unless you have a scholarship or you have, you're too good to pay or whatever they think. So then it's like, well, if you played on the team but you got no run, that's tough too, because it is about court time and it is about
Mhm.
getting evaluated, right? And it is about getting better and taking those battles in the summer in an EYBL game and bringing it back to the Piedmont gym and showing how
Mhm.
you compete. And like, man,
Mhm.
you had to guard a girl that is getting offers from Georgia or South Carolina. Damn, must have had to really work hard to keep her in front of
Mhm.
you. So you bring some of that back to the table, because we always want to try to grow and learn.
Mhm.
But then I feel like, I think you have to, for AU, for club ball, you have to pick. I think it comes down to picking the right team, a good coach who has a solid reputation, so you can kind of learn and grow. Um, but the unique part about Piedmont is, because I've been coaching for a good amount of time, and built a lot of relationships. Whether you play club ball or not, you're going to get evaluated either way, you know.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it is good to have when you have both, right? Because then you get put on a stage, you get put, club ball is going to put you, their 3 or 4 events are going to put you in front of, if you're on the right team, 100 coaches at one time.
Mhm.
And if you make 7 threes in one game, you already wrote your own meal ticket. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you didn't, or you didn't log enough minutes, we may have to combat that. You come back and you have to get in front of the open gym and have 10, 12 coaches there, and you have to kind of build it back up, So um, I think they both serve a purpose. I think they're both important. I think there was a point where there was some frustration, like, man, they come back and they're just not very, they're the same player. And it's because you
Mhm.
weren't held to those standards. You weren't held to the body language. You weren't held to the high motor. You weren't held
Mhm.
to, everything matters. So then you kind of got
Mhm.
into a different groove, and now you come
Mhm.
back and you look the same, but you can't look the
Mhm.
same, right? You have to
Mhm.
evolve always. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So um, I think at the end of the day, if you pick the right system in the right place, it's going to benefit you, and club ball can definitely help. It'll help, if you care about the rankings and all those things, which I honestly don't care about, but I know parents do and I know kids do. So if it's hard to get evaluated or get ranked if you're not playing in the summertime. So I understand it. I like it. I think our kids have played for some good teams and it's helped them. Um, And I think when you have a relationship with the club team as well, you can get a lot done because you can, learn the schedule, make sure your kids, if they're all playing for a similar program,
Mhm.
then if they're all going away that weekend, then you can't have a high school event that weekend, and you
Mhm.
talk about it, right? And you
Right, right.
figure it out, and you make it make sense for you. And as long as you guys work, as long as the programs work together, I think it works out pretty well.
Mm. So you had a good year, which we'll get into, but you guys had a phenomenal year this year. Didn't get all the way where you wanted to get, but you guys were cooking for a lot of the circumstances that you were enduring along the way. You guys were mowing through some people. Um, Once the season is over, how do you evaluate What do you evaluate? How long does it take for you to evaluate? Do you just take 3 weeks and just don't talk to anybody, don't talk about it? Do you, do you have like I'm sure you do have like player exit interviews. I know some of the girls told me they did, right? Like, but how do you evaluate your season in reflection? And then how do you use that for the next year?
We definitely usually take some time, and then we come and have these exit interviews because as a coach, you want to learn what can we do better, what can we do differently, what happened in that last game. Uh, you know, moving forward. If it's a senior, then you're trying to help them decide if they haven't already committed, what kind of schools they want to go to. Let's get the film together. Let's put you in the right situation. Let's try to see if we can find you a school to play at. If they're a returner, then it's like, okay, we take a couple weeks off and then we got to get
Mhm.
right back to it because obviously we
Yeah.
didn't finish where we wanted to finish and we have to
Mhm.
get better. Like you have to evaluate. I mean, even as a coach, I feel like there's a ton of things we could have done differently, and it's just frustrating, right? But you have to own that, honor that, and now you have to try to get better. Like, what could we have done differently? To not finish that last game, right? So,
Mhm.
and that always takes time. I mean, I think, this year was a little different for me. We wanted to get to that finish line and try to figure it out. And we knew only one team was going to do that. So, but you put so much into it, like we do
Yeah.
every year. But this year was unique. You don't plan on
Yeah.
going undefeated. You don't talk about it. You don't coach that way. You don't go into a tournament saying, "Oh, we got to win." You just don't. Like you coach and you try to get better every day. You're literally trying to improve every day. So when we got to that point where it was later in the season and we were still hadn't taken a loss, you know, you feel some type of way about it, but you try not to even talk about it or get into it because, you know, us athletes usually are superstitious in some shape or form, or you just want to, focus on the task at hand and keep it literally one day at a time and really try to embody that and live in the moment. You hear Kobe talking about being in the moment, Gino talk about it, even, Don Staley, I saw her talk like you just have to stay present. Like it is really important. And you hear Steve Kerr, like you hear all the great ones talking about just stay focused, and I heard, one of those quotes saying, if you're still talking about what you did yesterday, you haven't done much today, right? So it's kind of like you
Mhm.
just have to stay really locked in. It's probably one of the hardest things to do because it's easy to say stay locked in, but like you really have to embody that and try to practice that way and try to shoot that way and try to coach that way and and not try to get too far ahead or too behind. But we definitely have those exit interviews and as a coach, I say, hey, what do you like about practice? What do you not like about practice? Were there drills that you thought were just not very good? Were there things that we could have done differently? Should we lift before practice, lift after practice? Like as a coach, I'm constantly trying to figure that out. I don't know if we have all the right answers. We think we do a pretty good job, right? We know we do a pretty good job, but you can always get better, right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, you want some feedback. Like for me, I don't want it to be just all about me or all about that'll never really work. You can't do anything on your
Mhm.
own. You know what I mean? That's why I call upon you all the time. Hey, man, come when you can. I give you the schedule. Please show. I don't even
Yeah.
really, question it because when you're in the gym, I trust you and I know you, and I'm like, but you can't do it alone, and I don't ever think I can. That's why I want, and I hope I make it welcoming for you when you do show up
Yes,
because
sir.
it is really important to me that this isn't a one person show, and it never will be if you want to get to that, you know, to the end. And even then, it's not a one person show when you're talking about life and basketball and sports and
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
share so many little things with the kids, little nuggets and important stuff with them that is like they have to hear that. They're not going to get that somewhere else, or maybe they did. Maybe a parent said it, but because of the parent, they may take it
Yeah.
to one ear and out the other because it's
Yeah.
parent, but you said the same thing and you're someone different, and the light went off just the way you worded it, right? So
Yeah.
echoing the same message is always welcome. And I feel like we try to do that.
Mhm.
And we try to we try to figure it out. It's so hard. I mean, we've won a couple state titles. That was some years ago now. So we're trying, man. It's hard.
Yeah.
And that's going
I
back to the
mean,
athletic side of things. But we're winning the other ways, right? We're moving these kids along, and they're being good. They're good citizens to this world. So
and
we're,
that's
we're
perfect. That goes right into my next question, which was like, you guys were 27 and what, 27 and one this
27.
year and stuff like that. And your first loss was your last loss, your only loss, right? Um, but to have that level of success, to beat the teams you beat in the state, out of the state, up the state, down the state, you guys were nationally ranked this year.
Yeah.
And so you've had success. This year you had a phenomenal year. You've had several phenomenal years, winning state titles, winning all the other stuff. But another thing that I noticed about you and your program is the integrity that you run it with and that permeates it. There's a there's an air of a love of the game, of a love and respect for each other, for the environment, the love and respect everyone has for you, including myself, the kids, the boys, the girls, just everybody, I'm sure, really, even more than they can clearly articulate, can feel the love of the environment, the love of the gym. And so with your success in that environment, how have you been able to keep your integrity? Meaning, I'm sure there's a lot of kids who would love to figure out how to get up in that spot, by hook or by crook. You know what I mean? And that's so funny because anytime you and I have had conversations, you're always like, yeah, man, like they got to talk to the school, they got to go through the school. You never play the backdoor game or like talk to her on the internet through the back channel. Like you've never done that. Even when you and I were just talking completely offline and off space, and I notice things like that because being from Los Angeles, I know a lot of good coaches, but I know what they're doing too. Like I literally know what they're doing. And so for you to compete on that same level that they compete at, I realize like, well, he's doing the same thing, but he's never said this or that or the other. He's never done this or that or the other. And so how have you been able to maintain your integrity while having, almost in spite of or along with, I don't know, the success that you've had? How have you been able to maintain that?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to credit the work that we put in, because I feel like yourself, people would notice it if you continue to just keep your head down and continue to work. Um, and I feel like when people recognize those things and when they see, way the kids interact with each other, um, and I feel like it goes back to some of the culture too, right? Because I feel like when you put that in place, then people do want to be around, and people
Mm,
do want to try to be a part of something special, something different,
mm,
and that's why not only did we add those quotes or we add like different things, but we do the affirmations at the end where I saw another coach do that, and they literally, I think it was one of the U.S. It was, I don't even remember where I got it from, but it changed the way we do things too, because we started it some years ago. And at first it was kind of, everyone's all kind of nervous, and, we circle up and someone says something about someone else. And at
mm,
first it was like all quiet and, you know, indoor library voice. And,
mm,
and then it was kind of like people were embarrassed at first. But then when you started hearing someone say something really positive to you, it would like light the kid up, and I didn't realize how powerful it was. I just said I was going to try it. I went, it wasn't a coach's clinic. I think I either was talking to a coach or went to a gym or I did something. And I thought, wow, I've never seen that before. And
Hmm.
I'm sure it's been done a bunch of times, but I just had never seen it. And I'm
Hmm.
sure, other programs do it too. But once I saw it and then I saw the value that it had, even though sometimes we rush through it now, like the kids will say something and they're ready to clap or snap their fingers or whatever. Every group has a different thing that they do, but I think it does carry a lot of weight when kids have tough days, when kids have good days, when kids have, you know, okay days. When someone else tells you that they thought you did a good job doing something, or you brought good energy, or you shot the ball well, hearing another peer say that really um, kind of sets the tone for the next day, and and it creates an environment where people are willing to share what they see and and all the hard work. And then for as coaches, we're just trying to you know keep it locked in and make it so that the kids have a fun place and a great place to be. Um, and we just want to continue to do it the right way. We know it's hard, and it's not easy. And people do say, whatever, you get accused of stuff all the time or whatever, but it's like, you're doing it the right way. You just kind of leave it alone, because it's so much hard work. Like you said, it is daily. We're there all the time,
Yeah.
literally all the time.
Yes.
Whenever we're
Yes.
allowed to be in there, we're there. So it's just like this culture. It's like a thing to do. And it's kind of like not going to class, but it's kind of like, oh, you're on the team. Oh, you're part of something, and they do want to be there. So then, it's just work. And then, we're down the football field, the football dudes see us, and just all the work that they put into it. So I feel like with the collection of that and trying to do it the right way, I think people ID it, recognize it, and some want to be a part of it. We don't ever have big numbers, but some people want to be a part of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, so, I mean, you've been doing this for a while now, man. What have you learned about yourself or about life or both from this coaching journey that you started, like you said, for 4 months at the beginning, just thinking it was 4 months to over, 20 years or so.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself or about life through this experience?
Well, I think for one, I didn't used to be very patient. I always like get irritated in traffic or if someone, whatever the case was, I would always be pretty fiery after a short amount of time. So patience kind of kicked in quick. So if you coach,
Mm,
you can't you can't go crazy after one little thing, or you can't do it all the time consistent because it just won't work.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it just won't work. And two, over time, I really felt like everyone feels like they have their why, like why they're doing it. I felt like for me, it took a while, but I realized my why was giving back and trying to help this age group figure it out. So I feel like, it wasn't because if you coach high school and you're into youth sports, there isn't, crazy amounts of money, right? I mean, obviously you can have camps and do some other things that can make it make sense, but you don't really do high school sports for the money, right? You do it because you really love it and you enjoy it. But for me, it became even more once I saw that I was being able to impact some of the people that had played for me, and then year after year, and still be able to talk to them or interact with them. And when now they're young adults, they're buying houses, they're applying for jobs, they need references, people call when they need when they're reference checks, and so I started realizing that for me, it was I was in the right place. Like I had to continue to give back the way I've been giving back, touching so many different people in different ways too, because it wasn't always just athletically. Because you have kids that didn't play sport or played sports but didn't want to go on and play in college, and you still interact with and talk to and you still help them in different ways as well. So it wasn't just strictly, oh, you scored 30 for us a game and you got a scholarship, so we're still gonna we'll stay in touch, but just through our alumni, just seeing the impact through the alumni, and I felt like I was on the right path. Um, and then as a coach, I mean, you go full circle on that, man. You start out learning, two or three things and you think they work
Yeah.
really well and you keep
Yeah.
coaching and you watch more games and watch, coaches clinics and YouTube links and whatever, talking to
Yeah.
more people and start
Yeah.
asking more questions.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I think a lot of coaches who run systems, and we all have some type of system, but you have to be willing to evolve. And I think so many coaches don't either fight it or you either adapt or you die. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
process you can't have an ego. And I think so many times we all have some type of ego, but you
Right.
can't let it just take over everything, right? So I think between all those things, you can kind of start figuring out. Because I feel like I'm a much better coach now, but we ain't won no championship in a while. So it's like, all right, maybe we're not as good, right? It's like, dang. But you just keep trying to grow. I think people, I don't want to say they underestimate it, but I don't know if they truly are listening or they're seeing it or hearing it, but they're not necessarily listening it. So I think people just have to be willing to kind of kind of embrace that part. I really have. I really feel like I don't want to have all the answers. I don't think I have them all. That's why
Mhm.
I call on you and I let you teach because I'm learning. You know what I mean? And I never feel like I'm going to stop learning. Or you go to a club practice, or I try to go to all the Division I practices in the Bay Area, all 7 of them. I haven't
Mhm.
gone down to Stanford in a while, but I've gone to literally every single one. USF, Cal, Santa Clara. Go to all of them. Just try to
Really?
learn. Drove up to Sac State, try to learn. Yeah, St. Mary's. I go to St. Mary's on the regular. Like because I think the coach there did a great job. Paul Thomas, he was an amazing coach. So I would go up there and try to learn. Like I really feel like um, you just can never stop. And the game keeps evolving. So once we're running, the triangle, and then next year you're running continuous screen and roll motion, and then you're running the 5 out, and then you just want to keep growing. And
Mhm.
some people like to stay the same and teach the exact same way, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But for me,
Mhm.
where I am and where I want to go and and try to be one to do it, at the super high level and teach it at the high level and compete at the high level, you just got to
Mhm.
keep trying to soak it all in, do as much as you
Mhm.
can.
Mhm. Yeah, man. Well, talking about a high level, have you ever? I'm sure you've had plenty and thousands of millions of offers to move on, move up, move out, however you want to say it, right? How do you deal with those offers? Have you ever considered any? Have you ever taken in and then retracted? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, I have pretty much every year I've been coaching, I've been offered at least a college job. Um, and some of them, I think at the time, I feel like it wasn't right. And then some of the time, I think I entertained, it was maybe 6, 7 years back. There was a San Jose State opened up, and I got a couple calls so I've definitely entertained them. But again, I feel like, um, I don't want to say I'm in the right spot, but I feel like I'm in the right age group to impact and try to help people navigate this part of their life, this small part of their
Mhm.
journey.
Mhm.
But I mean, college is definitely something that is always thought of and stuff. But I feel like the NCAA, I don't want to say they have too many rules, but I love being in the gym so much, man. They have regulations on like the amount of hours you can be in there, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
it'll work for me because I think I'd be
yeah,
breaking those rules without even trying, like not doing it on purpose. I just want to be in the gym. But I
yeah.
do consider and been thinking about the WNBA as well, like just
Oh, really?
you know,
Okay.
but it's in the summertime, so it's there's a lot of coaches
Doable.
that do high school and then
Yes,
go to the W.
yes,
I've seen it,
yeah,
and I know it,
yeah.
so I'm kind of looking at that a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see. I think,
Mm.
and then obviously, if not WNBA overseas opportunities, sometimes only one or two have come up, but haven't really thrown my name around there too much. But when it did come up, it was a good offer, and then it changed, and contract changed and terms changed, and I thought it went from like a short deal to like a 2-year deal, with a couple
Okay.
plane tickets. And I'm like, the 4 month, the 5 month sounded a lot more attractive than locking in for 24 months. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
felt like too
Yeah.
much. But and the money shifted a little bit. So, but definitely, I feel like I'd be up for it or entertain it. Um, I do love at the high school age group, or just being able to
Mhm.
try to continue to compete and win it, or try to figure that out.
Mhm.
But I think at some point, you get that little itch for that higher level, because you work with or I get to work. I'm blessed to be able to work with so many kind of higher level players. Sometimes you walk away and you're like, dang, there's a whole team of those. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty. It's
Yes.
just another
Yeah.
level, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of look at
Yes.
that and you're like, you know what? Maybe I would like that, right? But
Yes. Yes.
I enjoy the development part. I enjoy watching people grow, but that's happening at those high levels too. People put the work
Mhm.
in, they're getting better. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't say I'm shutting any of those doors down. I think I'll keep them open and just try to, you know, if they come and it's one of those ones you just can't turn down, then maybe it'd be time. But right now, I enjoy where I'm at. Um, I feel like there's still work to be done. Obviously, came up short this year. Tisk tisk tisk, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
good. It's all good. It's been fun.
Man, I know you. I know you played around the world. I know you've coached players around the world. I know you go do clinics around the world. Kind of just almost a different type of question. I don't even know if there's a real answer or a good answer. Is basketball different around the world?
It is in the sense, yeah. Uh, Other than like I feel like here in the States, it's a lot of all the trainers are doing all the triple combos and the dribbling and the tennis balls and the two ball and the move to the another move to another move. Like in other places, they dribble, but they really are. It's more player movement, ball movement.
Oh,
Even at the
okay.
practices or the workouts, obviously everyone needs to be able to dribble, but there's just different levels to it. I think here we probably have better handle, but over in other places in Europe or Japan and China, like they're getting that ball to move and the player to move, whether it's misdirection stuff or whether it's just constantly people moving. Um, so you see that, and I think the shooting is I think there's that gap. I really do. I think Europe is like the Olympics. We were the dream teams were winning by 70, 80, 90,
Yeah.
and it's starting to shorten up a little bit because the game is evolving over there. They're getting more skillful, but they shoot the ball well. And then they have those academies where they go, they go not all day because they get educated, but they have a lot where the game is growing, and then they obviously learn from us, and we're learning from them. And then,
Mhm.
heck, our best player, the last three MVPs have been from Europe, right? Our last five MVPs have been from Europe.
Yeah, there's been
In
a
the
couple of
NBA, Giannis, Joker, I think, and then I think that one of them has won it twice or two times. So yeah, I think
yeah,
Europe is catching the gap is getting smaller fast, and it's because
yeah,
of the way they train. They don't have you and I both train, and I almost don't even like to use the word train anymore. I don't know what word I want to use anymore because there's so many trainers now, and I'm almost offended
yes,
by some of the stuff I see. So
yeah,
they the way they train is their teams are trying to get better all the time, and they use their right hand, left hand. Everyone can shoot. I feel like here we train, but man, you're at a realm. And the last time I went to Jam Town, or it's called Soldier Town, or now it's called OPT or something, Open Gym Prime or something. I think they have like 12 rims or 16 rims. There was a trainer on every rim. And right then, I told myself, I'm not walking back in this gym and going to be lumped in with this situation. Like,
yeah,
I'm not saying I'm better than anyone or any of that stuff. There's so much training out there now. It's almost stunning the growth of the players, right? It's like
wow,
you're working on stuff that you'll never do in a game or in a
yeah,
varsity game or in a college game. There's like
yeah,
a handful of players that get to do a lot of those things. You don't get to do the bounce, the pound size step. Like, there's just not a lot of like you need to be able to do it, but you have to work on all phases of your game: the finishing, the
yeah,
cutting, moving without the ball, shooting after you run around a little bit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
setting screens and moving, like and playing with pace. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like the world is catching up. We're slowing down, which means I just say stunt the growth because it's just we're working on stuff, but it's not necessarily stuff you'll do in a game. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and I think the kids are getting hung up, the parents are getting hung up, parents are
Mhm.
paying a pretty penny, the kids not logging the minutes that they want to log, or they're not impacting winning. Like it's about winning games when you play a
Mhm.
team sport. So
Mhm.
um, I think we're I think the game's in a good place, but I feel like maybe we can cut down on some of the not as strong training and focus
Mhm.
on some of the other stuff. But I still feel like it's in a good place because it's everyone's watching. I mean, NBA's done a great job with the all the countries being televised there. People, athletes coming from all over, and so I think we're in a good spot. The game is definitely shifting for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, man. Sure. I don't want to hold you too much longer. Let me get to another question in.
Yeah,
So how do you, how do you know, or how will you know, um, or will you know
I'm gonna
when
get
it's
this.
time to move on? When
I'm
you
gonna get
feel
this
like,
light. That's a good
all
thing.
right,
Let me turn my light on. Hold on.
okay,
Is that better?
yeah,
Uh,
that's cool. Yeah.
or was that too bright? No.
No, it's perfect.
Okay. How I know when it's time to move on? Man, you know what? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I feel like I have a lot more to give and a lot more time, but yeah, I don't think I'll be hanging them up anytime soon. I don't know if it'll be, where I am now at Piedmont, or whether it'll be somewhere else, or maybe I'll go coach in another country or something. But I think it'll be a while. I think I'll be one of those coaches that's in their 70s or something, still hooping, still coaching, still hooting and hollering on the sideline. Um, I can't see it anytime soon. I love the game so much. I love what it's, done for me, and been able to see the world and relationships I got to build, and all
Mhm.
the family, just it's been so important to me that I can't
Mhm.
imagine what my life would look like without basketball. I don't know. It'd be like I've taken like a couple days off, and I'm like, what is going on right now? It feels weird because we're always in the gym, and I'm
Yeah.
always in some. I usually hit 2 or 3 gyms a day minimum, 2 or 3
Oh,
gyms a day. So not going to any gym for the last week or so since the season has been really weird. But
yeah.
I just love it. I enjoy it so much. I love it. It's fun. It keeps me young. It feels, or whatever. I feel um it's just something I really enjoy doing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know if
What
there'll be any time.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I think I
What
don't know
advice
who's the oldest coach out there. Jim Boeheim just retired. He
he
did
just
46
retired?
years at Syracuse. I don't know about that one. I don't know if I can do that
Yeah,
one, but he might
yeah,
have, but yeah, I think I'll be an OG coaching for sure.
for sure.
Yeah. Unless I don't know. How else can you stay in the game and be a little bit older? Commentating?
Yeah,
No. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, commentate. Yeah, yeah. Probably like your boy, who helped you out. You just kind of be like almost like an assistant coach, consultant to somebody else,
Yeah. I definitely would do
mentoring
that.
somebody else.
I definitely do that. Dick Coaching is the man. He gave me a crash course on how to be a pretty solid coach early on, and then just kept building on it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I was blessed with that, man, for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
Um, what was I gonna? Oh, I was gonna ask you. What was I gonna ask you? I was gonna ask you. Oh, I was gonna ask you something.
Mhm.
Oh, oh, I had it too. Just came on my tongue. Oh, what was I gonna ask you? Gee whiz. Um, dude. Oh, you said also you're going to the Final Four tomorrow,
I am.
right?
I'm gonna go to the
Yeah.
Final Four. I'm
Okay.
going to yeah, and I'm gonna see one of our former players, Courtney Paris. She has a house in Dallas, and I'm going to go to the Final Four. I used to go to all of them. I stopped going a couple years back. I'm going to go again. I feel like it's I don't want to say just networking or just, continue to build and try to, see if anything's out there, but more importantly, just kind of see, I haven't been to a Final Four. It's been a couple years now, probably before the
Yeah.
even maybe a couple years before the pandemic. So it'll be fun. It's in Dallas. There's some good teams still playing.
Yeah.
Uh, and South Carolina's looking really solid right now. But
Yeah.
that's why it's March Madness, man. You got to show up and play. You got to shoot well,
Yeah.
and you got to defend, and you got to do all those fun things. But
Yeah.
it's been a heck of a March Madness for sure,
Yeah.
especially the men's side. Man,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's no number one, number two, or number three seeds since the first time since 1979 or something. Like
Yeah.
it's been pretty incredible. It's been
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff. So it's been a lot of fun to see, and you're always trying to learn there too. You watching, and if you like a play you see, you loop it back a couple times, or an out of bounds play or anything,
Mm-hmm.
always trying to figure something out. So,
Mm-hmm.
man, well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Man, it's definitely my pleasure. One more question I wanted to ask you. What
Oh yeah,
advice
no,
would you give to what advice would you give to a young you, a young up and coming you, like maybe a young person who wants to get into coaching or they're being pulled in or asked in or dragged in, kind of like you were, and maybe didn't have any plans on it, or maybe always wanted to do it and now is their opportunity. How, what is something for them to think about or try to understand, or like you said, you were fortunate to have support, somebody helping you kind of, and maybe maybe they'll have that, maybe they won't. So, what is something, I guess advice, I guess you give to a 23-year-old, 24-year-old young aspiring coach?
yeah, you know what? One of the things I would definitely do or I would suggest that they do is just to ask questions and to be open to like hearing new things. Because I think when you first start coaching, or if you want to do it your way and you think it's the only way, or when you try to run a program or have a program, then I feel like there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because you have an idea and you have a vision, that's what you want to do. But I feel like if you almost get too much into that, then I feel like you won't give enough room to grow. And I think ultimately you won't notice it at the time, but ultimately it'll slow you down a little bit. So I
Mm,
feel like just the willingness to hear other people out. Um, if you go into a gym and guys want you to help run a practice or whatever, obviously should make some suggestions, but also be willing to hear what other people have to say as well.
mm,
I also feel like a young me would be. We talked about the patience a little bit. Like it's going to take time. Nothing's going to happen overnight. You have to be willing to put that time in. And I
mm,
think if you stay the course, it will happen. Whether you win a championship or whether you just have a really strong program or competitive
mm.
one. Um, what else? Uh,
What's one adjustment you've consciously made since you got started? Like where you're like, no, I am going to change this. Like what adjustment, maybe one or two, or just something that you feel like you didn't know it before you got in, so no harm, no foul, you just didn't know. But what is something you feel like you've consciously made an effort to change, adjust, increase, or eliminate, but just something that you felt made you better or your program better?
well, I think in the beginning, I think like most of us, I was pretty stubborn, or I was like, it's my way or the highway. Like, man, I don't care what you say. Right? That's why I kind of started with that because when you're young and you have success, you're like, man, this works. Like, I
Yeah,
don't need to do anything else. But then
yeah,
you start, then you coach long enough, it's going to come full circle, right? If you coach long enough, you're going to be on a winning by 20, and you're going to be on a team that's down by 20. Like,
mm,
you're going to see it all if you coach long enough. And I
mm,
feel like I think there was a point where I thought I need to be I need to be I need to be more receptive to other things. Like I felt like, maybe I thought it was and I don't think I did it on purpose. I just think just human nature is I'm just gonna keep doing it this way.
mm,
And then I think willingness to um, to bring in help, and because I was blessed early on with some good help, but just having um, more help, more support, more help. I've made a conscious effort to like make sure I reached out to alumni or um, someone like yourself who, whether you've coached or not coached, you've trained, you've been in the game, you understand how it works, you've played, and hearing different voices. I felt like that was something for me. I just felt like it was really important that I didn't have all the answers, and I was okay with asking, more questions and just being okay with that. I think for a while, I think people struggle. Like I listened to some people talk about, their kids' coaches and the program and this and that. And I'm thinking, damn, I think I was doing some of those things when I was in my first year. So I remember thinking like, yeah, they'll learn over time. They'll learn, like, because if you run a program, you're trying things that maybe your college coach did, but today's day and age, that you can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
example one, a kid missed the day before practice, they have to sit the whole game as opposed to maybe sitting the first quarter, right?
Right.
So you miss the
Right.
whole, now you have to miss the whole game. That's super old school. Like I don't even know if you can.
Yeah. That
I
was
don't
before us.
that
That
it
was
might be
the
FaceTime, right? Yeah, I don't know if you
Yeah.
can get away with that anymore, but some people are still trying it. So like hearing those kind of stories or whatever. So um, I think just open about change, and I think I struggle with change a little bit. I mean, I don't, I don't say I struggle with change, but you just have to be okay with it, and it's hard, and it's different, and you're not used to doing it that way, or you know, but and at least at Piedmont, we've had a lot of change through our administrators. Like we've had a lot of athletic directors and a lot of different things. So you just have to kind of, I want to say go with the flow a little bit too. Um, and that part is hard. Just going with the flow when you don't really know what's next, or who's the next AD coming in, or who's the next other side on the boys' side, and just be open to scheduling and practice schedules and all that stuff. You just have to talk and kind of be calm with it and try to open up and hear other sides of the story and all that stuff because it's hard,
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, man. Well, hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate
thank you
all
for
the
me.
wisdom and everything. Like I said, man, I really appreciate and respect the way that you handle yourself, you handle your business, you handle the girls, you handle the program, the environment. Like I said, you've established really a culture, man. And like I'm an avid learner of life. I'm fascinated with how life works. And so I'm always really I'm always really appreciative to see somebody who's good at something, whether, like I said, it's a plumber or an electrician or a cook or whatever else it is, just somebody who you can see is put their heart and soul and their life into something, and you can see they have a relationship with this thing. And I'm, just walking in your gym years ago now, I found that to be immediately clear to me. And just spending this time with you over the last couple of years and getting to know you more and know you better in your program and just the culture that you bring and bringing in the boys and the girls and the coaches and girls from other programs, high schools, junior colleges coming to the gym, just how you've really built a welcoming, productive, um, positive environment. And, in today's world, those are hard to find anywhere. I mean,
Mhm.
people are having problems at school, at malls, movie theaters. There's very few safe spaces just in life. And for you to have a safe place that's a positive, productive place and kids can blow off steam and have camaraderie and have good adult mentorship, you've really built a almost like a basketball Disneyland, just a very special place where people from all walks of life and all different schools are want to be. And you built that, and I just had so much respect for that. And I've watched and I've learned, and I just really appreciated that. And so I really appreciate you coming on, man, and just sharing your advice and your wisdom, so that people like me who love to learn can learn from someone like you. Whether I play basketball or not, there's just certain success habits you have that I wanted to pick your brain on myself and want other people, just like I said, rolling down the street when I reached out to you, other people rolling down the street to be able to hear it and say, I don't play basketball, but he did say to be a better listener, or he did say to, to ask for help, or just something that they can take with them in their life, regardless of what they do. So I
Mhm.
really appreciate it, man. I
Man,
really
I
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it. You summed it up pretty good, man. No, I love it, and I appreciate you having me and bringing me on. I feel like it doesn't surprise me when you said you're going to do something like this because listen to you talk all the time. You have so much knowledge. I'm like, I got to hear. I got to have to listen to some of these other lanes of mastery and some of this stuff. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Oh yeah, man. Once it gets out, just kind of putting it all together. But once it gets out, I'll definitely shoot it out to you, and so you can see yours and everybody else's, that we're doing. And because I'm doing like maybe 7 of them this week.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so I'm gonna have your boy Zion on. I had talking about, being in Vietnam and the stuff he does with kids, and I have my younger brother coming on, talk about